The battlefield was silent after the long night of war. Smoke rose from burning machines. Broken metal, weapons, and bodies covered the ground like a dark blanket. The sky was gray, and the air smelled of fire. In the middle of this ruined land sat a small alien child named Lyra. Her skin glowed faintly blue, and her large golden eyes were full of fear. She stayed close to her mother's lifeless body, refusing to move away. She did not understand why the fighting started. She only knew one thing: her mother was gone. Lyra was shivering. Not from cold, but from the heavy silence around her. Every sound, every piece of falling ash made her jump. Her heart beat fast, and she clutched the small necklace her mother gave her. She whispered, "Please wake up, please." But her mother did not move. The wind pushed the smoke aside, and Lyra suddenly heard footsteps. Heavy, slow, tired footsteps. Not like her people's steps, these were louder. She quickly crawled behind a broken metal plate and hid. Her small hands shook as she covered her mouth to keep quiet. The footsteps came closer. Then she saw him, a human. His armor was scratched, burned, and broken in many places. His helmet had a crack across it, showing part of his face, dusty, tired, but alert. He looked around the battlefield with sharp eyes, searching for something. Or someone. Lyra's people always said humans were dangerous. Humans were strong, fast, and cold-hearted. They were the enemy. They had killed many of her tribe. She remembered her mother warning her, "If you ever see a human, run." But now she could not run. She was too weak, too scared. And the human soldier was already very close. The man stopped walking. He lifted his head, listening carefully. Lyra held her breath, afraid he could hear her heartbeat. Then the human turned slowly, facing the metal plate she hid behind. Lyra closed her eyes. She waited for the human to drag her out, or hurt her, or worse. But nothing happened. Instead, she heard a soft voice, gentle, not angry. "It's okay," the human said. "I know you're there. I won't harm you." Lyra did not believe him. Humans always lied, that's what she had been taught. Still, there was something calm in his voice. Something unusual for a soldier on a battlefield. "Come out," he said again. "It's not safe there." Lyra shook her head silently. She stayed hidden. Suddenly, a loud growl echoed from behind the smoke. Lyra froze. The sound was deep and heavy, like a large beast waking up. The human soldier turned fast, pointing his broken rifle into the smoke. The growl came again, closer. Something was moving out there. The human whispered, "Damn." "Not now." Lyra peeked from her hiding spot. The human was scanning the area with tense eyes. He looked afraid, not of her, but of the creature approaching. Then the beast charged. A massive shadow jumped out of the smoke with glowing red eyes. Its claws cut through the air. The human fired his rifle, but the gun clicked empty. He threw the gun aside, pulled out a small blade, and shouted, "Move!" Lyra screamed as the creature lunged. At that moment, the human dove toward her hiding place. His arms wrapped around the metal plate, pulling it aside. Grabbing Lyra before she could react, the beast's claws hit the ground, where she had been hiding just seconds before. Lyra felt the human lift her with surprising strength. He ran through the smoke, holding her tightly against his chest. The beast roared behind them, chasing them through the burning ruins. She expected the human to drop her, to use her as a shield, to hurt her, but he didn't. He held her close, protecting her with his body. Every time debris fell or fire burst from broken machines, he shielded her. His breath was heavy, but he did not stop running. Finally, they reached a fallen wall where the beast could not follow. The human placed Lyra gently on the ground and knelt beside her. He took off his damaged helmet, revealing tired brown eyes. "Are you hurt?" he asked softly. Lyra was speechless. This human was nothing like the stories. He had saved her life. He was breathing hard, bleeding from his arm, because he protected her. Why? Lyra whispered. Why help me? The human looked at her with a sad, gentle expression. No child should die in war, he said. Not human. Not alien. For the first time, Lyra felt something new. Hope. Lyra sat on the cold ground, breathing fast. Her small body trembled, not only from fear but from confusion. She kept her distance from the human soldier, watching him with wide golden eyes. He had saved her. But could she trust him? The human, his name was Captain Reed, tore a piece of fabric from his broken armor and wrapped it around the cut on his arm. He winced but did not scream. Lyra noticed he was hurt because of her. A strange feeling stirred in her chest, guilt, and something like respect. Reed looked at her gently, though his face was tired. You can't stay here, he said. More creatures will come. And enemy soldiers too. Lyra hugged her knees. I don't want to go with you. Reed nodded slowly. I understand. You don't know me. And I don't know you either. He paused and wiped dust from his face. But if you stay alone, you will die. His words were simple, but they hit her heart like a heavy stone. Lyra knew the truth. She had no family left. No tribe. No home. Everything she loved was destroyed. She looked at the smoke rising in the distance and felt the loneliness grow even stronger. Reed stood up and offered his hand. I can protect you, he said quietly. At least until we find a safe place. Lyra stared at his hand but did not touch it. She did not know what to believe. Her people said humans were monsters. But this man had shown her kindness, a kindness she had not expected. She stood slowly, keeping a few steps back from him. I will walk, she whispered. Good, Reed said with a soft smile. Stay close. They began moving through the ruins. Each step made the ground crunch beneath their feet. Lyra walked behind Reed, always watching him carefully. His movements were slow but steady. He checked their surroundings again and again, like he was ready to fight anything. After a few minutes, Reed spoke without looking back. What is your name? Lyra hesitated. Lyra, that's a beautiful name, Reed said. She frowned. Humans were not supposed to compliment alien children. What is your name? She asked quietly. Reed, he replied. Captain Reed. The title meant nothing to her, but the way he said it made her think. He once had many people under his command. They reached the remains of a crashed transport ship. Its metal walls were twisted, and fires burned at the edges. Reed stopped and crouched beside a panel on the ground. He picked up a small piece of food from his pack and offered it to her. Lyra shook her head. I don't want human food. Reed laughed softly. It's not human. It's universal rations. Safe for all species. He took a small bite to show her it was fine. Lyra waited, then slowly took it. The taste was strange but comforting. She had not eaten since the battle began. While she ate, her stomach felt warm for the first time in hours. Reed checked his scanner, frowning. Enemy patrols are moving closer. We need shelter before night. Lyra looked around. Where can we go? There, Reed said, pointing toward a half-destroyed bunker. Its doors were broken, but the inside looked dark and deep. It's risky, but better than staying out here. Lyra swallowed nervously, remembering the monster from before. Are there more creatures inside? Maybe, Reed said honestly. But I'll protect you. Something in his voice made her believe him, just a little. They entered the bunker. The air inside was cold and smelled like metal dust. Their footsteps echoed softly. Reed used a small light on his wrist to guide the way. Lyra followed closely now, too afraid to stay far behind. Inside, they found old crates, broken weapons, and rusted equipment. Reed checked everything quickly, searching for anything useful. Lyra wandered near the entrance, touching the strange markings on the wall symbols from her people's old battles. Suddenly, a sharp metallic sound echoed from deeper inside the bunker. Lyra froze. Reed looked up instantly. "Stay behind me," he said quietly. Something moved in the darkness. A tall shadow. Slow, heavy, breathing. Lyra grabbed Reed's arm without thinking. Her fingers trembled. Reed did not push her away. Instead, he stood between her and the shadow, lifting his blade. The shadow stepped forward, then stopped. It was not a beast. Not a soldier. It was a damaged security robot, sparking with broken wires. Its glowing eyes flickered, targeting them. Reed whispered, "Great. Just what we needed." The robot raised its arm, preparing to fire. Lyra gasped. Reed pushed her behind a crate and shouted, "Stay down." The bunker lit up with a flash of blue energy as the robot fired the first shot. Their fight for survival had only just begun. Blue light flashed across the bunker as the damaged security robot fired again. Its metal body rattled with each movement, gears grinding loudly. Sparks jumped from its broken joints, but its targeting system still worked. It locked onto Reed and Lyra with cold, red eyes. Reed grabbed Lyra's arm and pulled her behind a metal crate. "Stay low," he ordered. The robot shot another blast, hitting the wall behind them. Dust and pieces of metal fell around Lyra, making her cough. Her heart pounded faster than when the beast had chased them. This enemy felt different. Cold, unstoppable. Reed peeked from behind the crate, studying the robot's movements. "It's damaged," he whispered, "but still dangerous." Lyra hugged her knees. "Can it be stopped?" Reed nodded once. "Everything can be stopped. We just need a way." The robot stepped forward with heavy thuds, its metal feet shaking the bunker floor. It scanned the crates, searching for heat signatures. Reed knew it would find them soon. He looked at Lyra. Her small golden eyes were full of fear, but she trusted him, at least a little. "Lyra," he said softly, "do you see that pipe above the robot?" She looked up. A thick metal pipe ran across the ceiling. It was cracked in the middle, hanging by only a few supports. "If that pipe falls," Reed said, "it might crush the robot." Lyra swallowed hard. "How do we make it fall?" Reed's eyes hardened with determination. "Leave that to me." He stood up slowly. Lyra gasped and grabbed his sleeve. "No, it will shoot you." "I know," he said with a small smile. "But I'm faster than I look." Before she could stop him, Reed dashed out from behind the crate. The robot instantly turned toward him and fired. Reed rolled to the side, the blast barely missing his shoulder. He ran behind another pillar, drawing the robot's attention away from Lyra. "Come on, you piece of junk!" Reed shouted. "Look at me!" The robot obeyed, firing again. The shot exploded against the pillar, sending metal flying. Reed used the distraction to sprint toward the opposite wall. He then jumped onto a fallen beam and climbed up quickly. Lyra watched, terrified yet amazed. Humans were so different from everything she had been taught. Strong, brave, reckless, Reed reached the pipe, holding onto a metal brace with one hand. "Lyra," he called. "Throw something, anything. Hit the robot to distract it." Lyra froze. Her small hands trembled. She had never fought anything before. She was just a child. But Reed needed her. I can do it," she whispered to herself. She grabbed a broken metal piece from the ground. It was heavy, but she lifted it with all her strength. Taking a shaky breath, she stepped out from behind the crate. The robot immediately saw her. Its red eyes glowed brighter as it aimed. Lyra threw the metal with all her might. It hit the robot's leg with a loud clang. Not enough to damage it, but enough to distract it. The robot turned toward her. "No!" Reed shouted from above. At that exact moment, Reed slammed his boot against the cracked pipe. The metal groaned loudly. He kicked again and again until the pipe finally snapped free. The heavy pipe crashed down onto the robot, crushing its torso and pinning it to the floor. Sparks shot into the air as its systems failed. The robot twitched once, twice, then went completely still. Silence filled the bunker again. Reed climbed down carefully, panting from exhaustion. Lyra ran to him, throwing her small arms around his leg in relief. "I thought it would shoot you," she whispered. Reed placed a gentle hand on her head. "I thought it would shoot you." Despite the danger, Lyra felt warmth in her chest. She looked up at Reed with a new feeling, trust, but their relief didn't last long. A deep rumble shook the bunker floor. Reed tensed immediately, pushing Lyra behind him. That wasn't the robot, he muttered. Suddenly, Reed's wrist scanner beeped loudly. He checked the small screen, and his face darkened. "Enemy forces," he said. "Not your people. Another faction. They're scanning for survivors." Lyra's eyes widened. "Are they looking for me?" Reed hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yes, why?" "I don't know yet," Reed answered. "But it means we're running out of time." He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the back exit of the bunker. Above them, the ground trembled again as enemy dropships landed outside. Lights flashed through the cracks in the walls. Voices echoed cold, sharp, and hostile. Reed held his blade tight. Lyra stayed close to him, her small fingers gripping his jacket. The enemy had returned, and now the real danger was beginning. Reed and Lyra slipped out of the bunker through a narrow, back passage. The air outside was cold and sharp. The sun was low, hidden behind thick smoke clouds. Reed kept his body in front of Lyra as they moved through broken walls and fallen trees. He listened carefully, checking for enemy voices or footsteps. Lyra stayed close, her small hand gripping the back of Reed's torn jacket. She didn't trust the world around her anymore. Everything felt unsafe. But Reed's presence, it made the fear a little smaller. "Are they still following us?" she asked softly. Reed nodded. "Yes, they want to capture anyone alive. Especially you." Lyra looked down at her feet. "Why me?" "That's what we need to find out," Reed said. "But for now, surviving is our first job." They reached an old supply trench. Reed helped Lyra climb down, then covered the top with branches. The trench was narrow, just big enough for the two of them to sit. Reed sat with his back against the dirt wall, trying to catch his breath. Lyra watched him silently. His face was covered in dust and sweat. His arm was bleeding again, the cloth around it soaked. Even then, he still looked ready to fight for her. "Your arm?" Lyra whispered. "It looks bad." Reed shrugged. "I've had worse." She frowned. Humans were strange. They acted strong when they were hurt. They protected people they didn't know. They fought against fear with jokes. Lyra reached into her small satchel, the only thing she had left from her mother. Inside was a tiny silver case filled with glittering blue powder. She held it carefully. "My mother used this," she said. "It helps wounds heal faster." Reed raised a brow. "Alien medicine?" "Yes," she said, opening the case. "May I help you?" Reed hesitated. He didn't know if the powder was safe for humans. But Lyra's eyes were sincere, and he didn't want to scare her away. "All right," he said gently. "Go ahead." Lyra sprinkled the blue powder onto his wound. The powder sizzled softly and melted into his skin. Reed winced, but then felt the pain ease. The bleeding slowed. "That's amazing," he said, surprised. Lyra smiled shyly. "My people made it from a special flower. Very rare." "Thank you," Reed said. "Really?" Lyra lowered her head. "You saved me many times. I want to help too." For a moment, Reed saw more than just a scared child. He saw someone brave. Someone trying to survive in a world full of loss. They sat quietly for a while. Reed pulled out 2 small ration bars. He handed one to Lyra. "Eat," he said. "You need strength." She took it, chewing slowly. Her eyes kept drifting to Reed's face, trying to read his thoughts. "Reed," she whispered, "you risked your life for me." "Why?" Reed looked at the ruined sky. "Because I saw a child sitting alone beside her mother's body. That was enough." "But I am not human," Lyra said softly. Reed sighed. "It doesn't matter what species you are. A child is still a child." Lyra felt warmth inside her chest. No one had ever spoken to her like that, so simple, so honest. Reed leaned his head against the dirt wall for a moment, closing his eyes. Lyra noticed how tired he looked. She moved a little closer, trying to share her small warmth with him. Suddenly, a loud thump echoed above the trench. Reed's eyes snapped open. He pulled Lyra close and covered her mouth gently. Voices deep. Metallic voices. Enemy soldiers. Their boots crunched on the ground, right above the trench. Reed and Lyra stayed perfectly still, hardly breathing. One soldier said, "Thermal scan shows 2 life signs nearby." Another voice replied, "Search every trench. The child must be found." Lyra's heart nearly stopped. She pressed closer to Reed, shaking. Reed wrapped an arm around her protectively. Minutes felt like hours. The voices moved away, fading slowly into the distance. Reed waited a little longer before whispering, "They're gone. For now." Lyra looked up at him. "Will they keep searching?" "Yes," Reed said. "They won't stop until they find what they're looking for." Lyra lowered her head. "Me." Reed took her small hand gently. "Lyra, I don't know why they want you. But I promise you this. I won't let them take you. Not while I'm alive." Lyra's eyes filled with tears, not of fear, but of something new. Safety, trust, hope. She squeezed Reed's hand. "Then I will stay with you." Reed smiled. "Good, because we make a pretty good team." Above them, enemy ships roared in the sky, searching the ruins. But down in the trench, for the first time since the battle began, Lyra did not feel alone. She had found her human protector, and their bond was only growing stronger. The sky darkened as evening fell over the ruined battlefield. Cold winds blew across the broken land, carrying smoke and dust into the air. Reed and Lyra carefully climbed out of the trench, keeping low. The enemy soldiers had moved further east, but the danger was far from over. Reed glanced at his scanner. His face hardened. "They're spreading out," he muttered. "Forming a search net. They want to trap us." Lyra looked up, worried. "Will they find us?" "Not if we stay smart," Reed said. He placed a hand on her shoulder. "Stay close. And if I say run, you run." Lyra nodded bravely, though fear twisted inside her chest. They moved through the ruins, weaving between fallen buildings and burnt vehicles. Every sound made Lyra jump, the crunch of dirt, the distant echo of gunfire, the screech of metal shifting in the wind. Reed's steps were steady, calm, controlled. He scanned rooftops, corners, and shadows with the focus of someone who had survived many battles. They reached the edge of an old city road. Cracked pavement stretched ahead like a scar. Broken street lamps lay scattered. Reed crouched and motioned Lyra to stay low. "Look," he whispered. 3 enemy soldiers stood near a crashed shuttle, checking scanners. Their armor glowed faint red, and their helmets had sharp jaws like metal predators. One soldier lifted his scanner and pointed north toward Lyra and Reed's direction. Lyra's breath caught. Reed gently covered her hand to keep her calm. "We move west," he whispered. Quietly, they turned and walked deeper into the ruins. Reed moved fast, but not fast enough to tire Lyra. They crossed a collapsed bridge, passed through broken apartments, and reached the entrance of an old transport tunnel wide, dark, and stretching far underground. Lyra looked inside. The darkness felt endless. "Reed, are you sure about this?" "It's dangerous," Reed said honestly, "but safer than staying outside. They won't find us easily in there." She swallowed hard. "Okay." Just as they stepped inside, a loud mechanical scream echoed behind them. Lyra spun around. A drone, a fast-moving scout unit, floated above the ruins, scanning with bright beams. It locked onto their heat signatures at once. Reed cursed under his breath. "Run!" Lyra grabbed Reed's hand, and they sprinted into the tunnel. The drone fired red blasts that smashed into the tunnel walls, sending sparks flying. The ground shook under their feet as they ran. Lyra's legs burned, but she didn't stop. Reed lifted her up to help her run faster. The drone flew in after them, its engines whining sharply in the dark tunnel. The red searchlight swept across the walls like a hungry eye. "Left!" Reed shouted. They turned into a smaller side passage. The drone followed, blasting the ground behind them. Reed ducked, shielding Lyra with his body. Lyra felt heat brush past her cheek. Too close. At the end of the passage was a fallen metal door, leaving only a narrow gap beneath. Reed dropped to his knees. "Lyra, crawl through." She slid under the door, scraping her elbows but getting through safely. "Reed!" She cried from the other side. Reed tried to crawl under, but the drone shot the ceiling above him. The blast caused the doorframe to collapse slightly, trapping Reed halfway. Lyra gasped. "Reed, hurry!" Reed pushed hard. The drone aimed again. Lyra's heart pounded. She looked around desperately, then saw a loose cable hanging from the ceiling. Sparks danced from its broken end. She grabbed the cable with trembling hands and slammed it against the metal door. Electricity shot across the surface with a loud crack. The drone's sensors glitched, flickering wildly. Reed seized the chance. He shoved himself through the gap just as another blast hit the door. Lyra caught his hand and pulled with all her strength. Reed rolled beside her as the drone smashed into the blocked entrance, unable to follow. They lay on the ground for a moment, both gasping for air. Reed turned to her, shocked. You shocked the door?" Lyra nodded weakly. "I saw the cable. I wanted to help." Reed let out a breathy laugh. "You're full of surprises." But the moment of relief didn't last long. They heard something deeper inside the tunnel, a distant growl, echoing from the darkness ahead. Lyra grabbed Reed's arm. "There's something in here." Reed rose slowly, pulling Lyra to her feet. He turned on his small wrist light. The beam stretched forward, shaking slightly in his injured hand. The tunnel continued endlessly. Old transport tracks ran along the floor, covered in dust. Strange claw marks scratched the walls. Reed narrowed his eyes. "We're not alone in here." Lyra moved closer, her small fingers clutching his sleeve. Behind them, the enemy soldiers began closing in. Ahead of them, something unseen waited in the darkness. They had escaped one danger, only to walk straight into another. The tunnel air grew colder as Reed and Lyra moved deeper inside. The darkness felt heavy, almost alive, pressing against them from all sides. Reed's small wrist light flickered softly, showing only a few steps ahead. The growl they heard earlier came again, low, slow, and very close. Lyra held Reed's arm tightly. What is that?" she whispered. Reed listened carefully. "Something big. Something hungry." His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp with worry. Behind them, distant robotic beeps echoed through the tunnel. The enemy soldiers were entering the passageway. Their scanners beeped louder every minute. "We're trapped," Lyra said, fear rising in her voice. "No," Reed replied. "We keep moving. There must be another exit." They hurried forward. The growl became louder, clearer. Reed raised his blade, his injured arm shaking slightly. He used his body to shield Lyra, "Stay behind me," he said firmly. The tunnel widened into a larger chamber. Reed's light swept across the walls, and both he and Lyra froze. Huge claw marks covered every surface. Bones lay scattered on the floor. The air smelled old and rotten. Then two bright yellow eyes opened in the darkness. Lyra gasped. Reed moved in front of her. Instantly, from the shadows crawled a massive tunnel beast. Its body was long and covered in stone-like scales. Its jaws opened wide, showing sharp teeth dripping with saliva. It let out a deep growl that shook the walls. Reed whispered, "Don't move." But the beast already sensed them. Its eyes locked onto Lyra's small, weak, easy prey. It roared and lunged. Reed pushed Lyra aside and swung his blade. The metal hit the beast's face, but barely cut the scales. The impact threw Reed to the ground. "Reed!" Lyra cried. The beast turned toward Reed, raising its huge claw. Reed rolled away just as the claw smashed into the ground, sending dust into the air. Reed grabbed Lyra's hand. "Run!" They sprinted into another passage, the beast chasing them. Its heavy steps shook the earth. Each roar felt closer than the last. Reed spotted a half-collapsed wall ahead. A small gap led to a side tunnel big enough for Lyra, but not for him. He quickly lifted Lyra and pushed her toward the gap. "Go!" he shouted. Lyra tried to pull him with her. "No, come with me." Reed shook his head. "I won't fit." "But you must go." The beast roared behind them. Dust fell from the ceiling. Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "Please, I can't leave you." Reed placed his hands on her shoulders, his voice soft but firm. "You are the one they're looking for, Lyra. You're important. Your life matters more than mine." He forced a smile. "Be brave. Like your mother wanted." Lyra's heart twisted. She felt the same fear she felt when she lost her mother, but stronger. She couldn't lose Reed too. The beast roared again. Reed pushed Lyra into the gap just as the creature lunged. Lyra crawled through, tears falling fast. She turned around just in time to see Reed holding his blade with both hands, standing between her and the beast. "Go, Lyra." Reed shouted. The beast struck him with its tail, sending him crashing into the wall. Lyra screamed, "No, Reed!" Reed struggled to his feet, blood dripping down his forehead. "I'm fine." He lied. "Just keep moving." The beast lunged again. Reed rolled aside, leaving deep claw marks where he once stood, but he was slowing down. Lyra's chest tightened. She couldn't leave him. She wouldn't. She looked around desperately and saw glowing mushrooms on the tunnel wall. Her mother had taught her about them. When crushed, they released a blinding flash. Lyra grabbed one, then another. Her hands shook, but her mind was clear. She crawled back toward the gap. "Lyra, no!" Reed shouted, "It's my turn to help." She cried back. Lyra threw the glowing mushrooms at the beast's face and smashed them with a rock. Blinding white flash exploded. The beast roared in pain. Stumbling backward, confused and blinded, Reed stared at her in shock. "How did you?" "No time," Lyra shouted. "Come now." Reed didn't argue. He ran to the gap and squeezed through, tearing his armor and skin against the rocks. Lyra grabbed his arms and pulled with all her strength. Together, they escaped as the beast slammed into the wall, shaking the entire tunnel. Breathing hard, Reed collapsed beside Lyra. She wrapped her arms around him tightly. Sobbing, "I won't leave you," she whispered. "Never." Reed placed a trembling hand on her head. "And I won't leave you either." But as he looked at the blood on his arm and the distant echoes of enemy soldiers, he knew something. He could not protect her alone much longer. They needed help. They needed rescue. And time was running out. The tunnel shook again as the beast roared in frustration behind the collapsed wall. Reed and Lyra lay on the ground, exhausted and shaking. Dust drifted around them like falling snow. Reed tried to sit up, but pain shot through his injured side. Lyra quickly supported him. "Don't move too fast," she whispered, her voice trembling. Reed forced a small smile. "I'm okay. We're alive. Thanks to you." Lyra looked down shyly. "You saved me first." Their moment of relief lasted only a breath. From deeper in the tunnel came sharp mechanical beeps and heavy footsteps. The enemy soldiers were too close. Their scanners glowed through the darkness like red stars. Reed tightened his grip on Lyra's hand. "We need to move, now." Lyra nodded, though fear twisted inside her. They walked through the passage, Reed limping but still trying to stay strong. His wounds slowed him down, and every step made him wince. Lyra looked worriedly at him. "Reed, you need help. We just need to reach the surface," he said, breathing hard. "There might be a signal tower nearby. If I can activate it, humans will come." Lyra's eyes widened. "A rescue ship?" "Yes," Reed said. "Our only chance." They continued until the tunnel sloped upward. A faint light appeared ahead, the outside world. But before they could reach it, Reed stumbled. His legs shook and he fell to one knee. "Reed!" Lyra cried, grabbing him. He coughed, blood dripping onto the floor. "I'm fine. I just need a second." Lyra's hands trembled. She had seen this before, when her mother grew weak during the battle. That memory stabbed her heart. "No," she whispered fiercely. "You will not die. I won't let you." Reed looked at her, surprised by the strength in her voice. They pushed forward together. Lyra supported him with all her small strength. Step by step, they reached the surface. Cold evening air hit their faces. The sky was dark purple, lit by distant fires. Reed pointed toward a tall broken structure rising above the ruins. "That tower. We can use it." Lyra helped him walk toward it. But before they reached halfway, a sharp electronic whistle rang out. Enemy drones. 3 of them flew down from above, shining bright lights on Reed and Lyra. "There!" a soldier shouted from the distance. "Capture the child." Lyra's heart froze. Reed stepped in front of her, raising his blade even though his hands shook. "Stay behind me, Lyra." The soldiers marched forward with their weapons ready. Reed tried to stand tall, but his body was failing. Lyra could see it. He was losing strength. The lead soldier pointed at Lyra. "The girl belongs to us. Step aside, human." Reed didn't move. "No, you are injured," the soldier said. "You cannot win." Reed lifted his blade. "Maybe not, but I can buy her enough time." Lyra grabbed his arm. Tears filled her eyes. "Reed, don't." He looked at her with soft, tired eyes. "You gave me hope, Lyra. Let me give you a chance." The soldiers prepared to fire. Lyra felt something inside her break, a deep fear mixed with fierce courage. She stepped forward and shouted, "Stop!" The soldiers paused for a moment, surprised by her boldness. Reed whispered, "Lyra, what are you doing?" She squeezed his hand. "Trust me, like I trusted you." Then, with all her strength, she ran to the tower and climbed the metal ladder. Energy blasts hit the walls around her, but she kept climbing. Reed tried to follow, but collapsed again. "Lyra," he cried, "get down." But she reached the top of the tower. Her hands shook as she found the emergency panel Reed had described. "Come on. Please work." She whispered. She pressed the button. A loud beacon sound echoed across the battlefield. A bright signal light shot into the sky. The enemy soldiers panicked. She activated a distress signal. "Destroy it." But it was too late. High above the clouds, a bright blue ship broke through the sky, fast, powerful, unmistakably human. Reed's rescue team. The ship fired warning blasts, scattering the enemy soldiers. Drones exploded in the air. Lyra slid down the ladder and ran to Reed. Human soldiers landed and surrounded them. One looked at Lyra with confusion. "Sir, an alien child?" Reed wrapped an arm around Lyra protectively. "She's under my protection," he said firmly. "She's family." Lyra leaned against him. Tears of relief streaming down her cheeks. The rescue ship lifted off, carrying them far away from the battlefield, far away from danger. Lyra looked out the window at the sunrise breaking over the ruined world. Reed sat beside her, his breathing steady now. She reached for his hand. "Thank you, Reed," she whispered. Reed smiled softly. "No. Thank you, Lyra. You reminded me what humanity really means." And for the first time since the war began, Lyra felt safe. She had lost her mother, but she had gained something new, a human protector. A friend, a family, a new beginning.